Ladies and gentlemen, in the next few weeks, the political discussion is going to revolve around William Ruto, Raila Odinga, Rigathi Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Musalia Mudavadi. But let me begin by asking this question. Why is Deputy Rigathi Gachagua very bitter?
This country is a country of the rule of law. We have a constitution. We cannot violate the constitution by engaging a leader, engaging in criminal acts into a discussion. Kama anataka mazungumzo ni mambo mawili. Akuje pale kwa rais, atafute appointment kwa control of state house. Na atakuta mimi nimeketi hapo na notebook.
And I want to answer this question because Rigathi's bitterness has got its source not here in Kenya. The source of Rigathi's bitterness is in the United Kingdom, somewhere called Chatham House. That is the epicenter and the source of Rigathi's bitterness. The only problem is that he doesn't know that this is where his bitterness starts. During the campaigns last year, William Ruto was invited to Chatham House. And I remember even Raila was also invited. In fact, it is in Chatham House where anytime an African leader wants to ascend in power, they are always invited there to share their opinions and views on the kind of government that they want or they would like to form. And this is the kind of government that Ruto wanted to form.
My suggestions are as follows. First, the national government should be reconfigured to comprise the national executive headed by the president and the official opposition headed by the leader of the party or coalition of parties whose presidential candidate wins the second highest votes. That is good for accountability. And secondly, it removes or mitigates the winner-take-all perception. The leader of the party which becomes second becomes the leader of the opposition, and with his or her running mate automatically becomes members of parliament and assume the leadership of official opposition. This formula should apply at the county level as well. I further propose that with the leader of opposition taking leadership of the opposition in parliament, the deputy president should then take over the leadership of government business in parliament. This should be replicated at the county level by deputy governors. The Senate, we must make a decision to make the Senate the upper house. Thirdly, cabinet secretaries should be ex-officio members of parliament and must attend sittings of parliament at least once a week and whenever required to answer questions on the floor of the house. This will remove the perception that there is a disconnect between the executive and the legislature. I, however, maintain that members of cabinet should not be elected members of parliament. Fourthly, we must resolve once and for all the mechanism for the attainment of the 2/3 gender rule. We must apply ourselves to it, we must deal with it, and we must overcome it.
It is very clear that William Ruto had decided that he was going to create the office of official opposition leader. And this is because there was a crafted plan by the US and the UK and all the powers that wanted to ensure that William Ruto occupied the most coveted house, White House. And they knew very well that by hook or crook, William Ruto was going to be aided to be the president of Kenya. And that left them with one question, because they knew very well Raila commanded very many supporters, and they knew that this was going to be an electoral malpractice. And going by the history of our elections, they knew very well that Raila was not going to give William Ruto peace if and when his victory would be taken away. And they had crafted a plan that Raila would be incorporated into the government by the office of official opposition leader. And what would that mean? Because while Rigathi, Gachagua and William Ruto campaigned together, they made it very clear that they will not incorporate anybody into government. And even after taking oath of office, Rigathi Gachagua has continued to lament and tell William Ruto that he does not want Raila Amolo Odinga any closer to him. Going by the statements that you have seen there, one would think that the day Ruto and Raila would shake hands, then Rigathi would collapse because of this bitterness. And this is what I'm telling you, that the epicenter and the source of Rigathi's bitterness is in Chatham House. Now, there are those 5 aspects of government that William Ruto had shedded light on, and he had said very clearly how he wanted his government to run. And at the center was the office of the opposition leader. And immediately William Ruto took oath of office after some months. He hurriedly wrote a letter to the 2 speakers of the Senate and National Assembly. And his agenda was very clear: creation of the office of opposition leader, entrenchment into the constitution of the CDF, entrenchment into the constitution of the office of the Prime Minister. And he was very clear that this is what he wanted to be entrenched into the constitution. A few things happened here and there when Raila went to the streets demanding for scrutiny of elections, bringing down the cost of living, and very many things. And then when they sat down to talk or to speak for dialogue, the Kenya Kwanza team had given the Azimio team their agenda, and the agenda was the same: creation of official opposition leader, office of the Prime Minister, CDF entrenchment into the constitution, and 2/3 gender rule. That was very consistent from Chatham House when he was campaigning, to the writing of letters to the 2 speakers, and now on dialogue table in Bomas. And of course Raila also gave his side: scrutiny of election. That is why people like Cherera were called virtually from the US. People like Nyang'aya went to Bomas to shed light and to paint a picture of how things were. And then today, Kimani Ichung'wah reported to the nation that they had agreed on 3 points. And number 1 on the table was the creation of that very office, official opposition leader, and entrenchment into the constitution of the office of the Prime Minister, and then fidelity to political parties. And that means that Jubilee is going back to Uhuru Kenyatta. It also means that the ODM rebels are going to be thrown under the bus. And it also means that whether we like it or not, William Ruto and Raila Odinga have forged a formation, and they are going to work together. And the biggest casualty is going to be Rigathi Gachagua, because he has made it very clear that the day will end when Raila will shake hands with William Ruto. But from the report that you have been given, it is now very clear that these two are working together, or there is something in the offing. When William Ruto visited Nyanza, all the 4 governors attended and welcomed him in Nyanza. And I have a feeling that Raila must have instructed them to do the same. Raila is now going slow on William Ruto. And I have seen people like Maina Njenga being given airtime and an opportunity to carry on with their rallies in Central, commanding youths in an environment that is really against the chagrin of the deputy president. Just a few weeks ago, he was dragged to court that he was found in possession of a gun and some illicit drugs. But now it is like he has been set free. And all this tells you, and of course Sabina Chege lost her bid to become the minority, the deputy minority chief whip in parliament. And all this tells you that William Ruto is softening his ground. It also means that moving forward, Raila has been a scarecrow to the central Mount Kenya politicians and electorates. If Raila gets into any kind of dialogue and they agree to work together, then people like Rigathi Gachagua and Ndindi Nyoro are going to lose taste in Central because they will no longer talk about Raila Amolo Odinga. They must look for another agenda to talk about. And if Rigathi Gachagua would go back to the people, he cannot explain to them that Ruto is bad because he's the one who helped Ruto campaign. And he told them that Uhuru was bad and that they were helping William Ruto to form a government to take care of the people of Mount Kenya. Owing to the numbers that Azimio have, Rigathi Gachagua is going to be silenced completely, because if he plays mischief, Ruto will count on the numbers of Azimio. In fact, it is this number that is these numbers that are going to pass everything, because all these are going to be passed in Parliament, both in the Senate and the National Assembly, and if at all they have to go to the referendum, the Azimio will be there. So Rigathi Gachagua is a lonely man. He's lonely because I've also listened to a conversation where some people are saying that Rigathi never helped William Ruto to gain any numbers and votes in Central. That William Ruto approached them in person. He didn't pass through any other politician. In fact, William Ruto created people like Ndindi Nyoro 5 years before election because he wanted his team. And so, as things stand, Rigathi Gachagua cannot threaten William Ruto. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be very sad, and we want to wait and see how Rigathi Gachagua is going to take this news, because it is now very obvious that there is a handshake, of course with another name. The only problem that I'm waiting to see, when they finally agree on the cost of living, how is it going to be? Because already there are taxes that have taken place. We have removed subsidies and we have increased VAT on fuel and fuel products, and this has really made the basic commodities, the prices of basic commodities have gone very high. I'm waiting to see the report on the high cost of living. I'm waiting to see the report on scrutiny of the last elections. But from what is happening, the Azimio have accepted that William Ruto is the president, and they want to check this government. That is why they are going to take the position of official opposition leader. But moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be very interesting to see how Rigathi Gachagua is going to take this news. And I am here to submit to you that this is the reason why Rigathi Gachagua is very bitter.